The Caverns of Infusion are now out in LFR, which does bring us on to a little bit of talk about LFR. Now, from Senarth and Kurog, you can get your tier legs and your tier chest, which means that in combination with Dathia, who drops hands, you can now at least get your 2 set, and the next wing of LFR comes out 17th to 18th. But really the reason why we're talking about this is because LFR is often a show, and to kind of go through this, here's a post from 2014, patch 5.4. Now, the scene must be set here. I remember watching the pain in the eyes of a certain Mike Lamb as he took his character into LFR and found all of the level 90 boost people, because this is... Hang on, wait. 2014.
Yep.
Yeah, this is after the level 90 boosters came out.
542, maybe?
Is it? Well, at least at one point, basically, the level 90 boost came out for the first time, and you had LFR being utterly swamped with people who just did not know how to play at all. It was really bad. But yeah, okay, what's this?
It was actually, well, apparently the boost was 547.
Okay, so this is actually pre-boost. Well, in that case, this is just what LFR was generally like. And in fairness, I remember LFR back in this time. I don't really think LFR's ever particularly been a fun experience, but like
it's been better than it is recently.
This is just a post of all of the usual shit.
Yeah, actually, I should probably make it visible for them.
Yeah,
would that be helpful?
Yeah, so this is just like all the usual, complaints.
This way.
And if we then go to the complaints of the day today. Yeah, there you go. The amount of toxic behavior is unreal. Belittling and harassing people just because we wiped, shouting at, degrading people. Most of us are just doing this for the first time. If you're expecting flawless performance, why are you in LFR? I suppose that is the weird thing. You do have people that go into LFR and then treat it like it's a pre-made group night where everybody has like committed to learning all of the fights. I guess I don't know if Alliance raids ever would have felt like that. I don't get the impression they would have. But yeah, basically just... This is a fresh wave in something that has often happened, and it's a problem for Blizzard because there's the game that they design, and then there's the way that meets people, and you know what I'll never forget. Now, part of this is the fault of Cat Danny and how they titled the video, because like the titling of the Asmongold TV video would make you think that he said this is a terrible raid, and all of that back for Sepulchre.
I remember that, yeah.
Yep, that was the whole thing, and I think Max subtweeted him, and it was a whole thing.
Drama.
And then they added in, like, one more word to the title or whatever. But a bunch of people went into Sepulchre, random, and I think he was doing it in normal, I have to imagine.
I believe so.
But the point was, it was a total disaster. And that's one of those things that's quite tricky, right? Because us going in to that same normal mode with a bunch of undergeared people because we all quit the previous season, just like as soon as we killed Sylvanas in normal. I think we got to Fate Scribe Heroic.
We got the disappearing floor Fate Scribe and Heroic, and then said no goodbye.
Yeah, because I was also right when all the allegations and stuff happens with Blizz. So, that same group of us goes into Sepulchre, and we loved that raid.
I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, we all really, really enjoyed it. And then one of the tricky things is, we enjoyed it because of the mechanics that it had. And those very mechanics were obviously what was causing his group of people that he pulled in the stream to die.
Yep.
And then it's interesting because, well, they all had a bad experience. They all had a bad experience because, like, WoW is meant for pre-mades.
It is.
It's always been designed for pre-mades first. And the problem with LFR is that very same design is now trickling down to something that is very different. And I suppose...
no longer fit for purpose.
Yeah, and you think of Final Fantasy XIV that has a free trial, blah, 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 blah. But you think of FF14 and Alliance raids.
And the patch next week, yeah.
Oh my god, that's next week. Wow. So the thing in Alliance raids in FF14, which I don't want to tell people that an alliance raid's basically like LFR. That's not fair.
It's not even close. That actually sparks a small amount of anger.
Oh yeah,
in me.
no,
Like,
it does rightly. Basically, alliance raids are the one with a larger group size that, you know, just all the randos go and they jump into it.
Yeah.
And in fairness, the normal raids are also a bit more like that, and it's in Savage mode where, you know, it is hard for a pre-made. But the design of alliance raids often seems to, well, I guess just to work quite well with the death penalty system in that game. And the death penalty basically is you get you get a debuff for a minute when you're combat resed.
infinite battle reses.
Yeah, you infinite battle
Just
reses.
slows things down.
Yeah, so, you know, for a minute when you get back up, I think initially it's 25% less throughput. Then the next time it's 50% less throughput. And those all, you know, it's a debuff with an expiration. The point basically is, you know, you can go sort of success a la World War One with how you do an alliance raid, which is basically just bodies at the problem, which does feel really kind of grisly to say.
Alright, you just get knocked out and you don't die.
There you go. But maybe World of Warcraft's LFR, rather than say to people, all right, the thing that's going to get you over the hump is stacks of determination, which then just means you have to die a lot. I think FF14 actually does have something similar to determination, yeah. But would it not be better if you had more of a, I suppose you could almost call it a more dynamic feeling death penalty, right? Where combat reses, maybe we just give them a very liberal cap and some sort of, you know, in combat res sickness or something. Now, the problem here is, you know, you'd be having different rules in different places, and that could be very confusing to players. But I suppose I just bring it up because, like, the idea of LFR not wiping as easily, but people being able to come back and keep the fight going, and it just means the fight will last longer.
Yeah, so
I think that would lead to less of those calamitous failures.
yeah, there's a whole number of things. There's a little bit at the bottom of our document here, which is literally how to take an insane revamp to make this way better and put the gloves on, make it really baby mode, but that would be basically infinite battle reses by NPCs. So you just keep coming back up and coming back up, and it's full. You can't fail this. But the thing is that they have always intended LFR to be a very easy, but not baby tier simulacrum of what it is to play World of Warcraft in Raid. They want it to be like basically baby's first introduction to this, or people who don't have time. They want it to be the cubable version. But the culture surrounding it, for a whole number of reasons, including the player profile of the average World of Warcraft player and how World of Warcraft directs you into doing content in a different way to how like FF14 will direct you into doing content, because the way that culture of that game's been built over time. There are people who will never go into Alliance Raid because they don't want to play the game's gameplay, and that's fine.
Yeah.
But World of Warcraft's a little bit different that way, because there's not as much else to do, etc., and it's more like directed a lot, whole variety of reasons. And I think it's just like the culture is so different, so you need to address it in a different way. So they just want it to be, here's normal but queuable and easier. But it should be a completely different experience because it's a completely different mode of experience. But they want it to be the step up. They want it to be the one step away instead of a different thing. Historically, at least, that's always been the rationale. It's always the reason it's there. But I think we're proving that. Obviously, I can't say prove because there's the vocal minority that says, and there's probably like hundreds of thousands of LFR runs that go super smooth all the time. But it is just the idea of if they have the bandwidth, it would be, there's a way to get a similar experience that's way, way, way better and doesn't have the frustrating time, the frustrating part. Because, like, I guess from an angle, obviously the fact that it drops tier and people want to go do tier or get tier for it. What? Why are you getting people who should be in normal and heroic into LFR? Oh, do you want them to carry other people in LFR? Well, that's a bit. that makes sense, but that's a problem you could solve by changing LFR to be different. And I have a couple of ideas for that. But it's just this problem of, why is it like this? It's a terrible experience, and there's times where they've like kept the severity of the mechanics intact, like N'Zoth. I think LFR and N'Zoth is going to...
That was a bad time.
LFR and Alutha is going to go down in history as probably one of the worst LFR experiences ever. Some of that might be, it was the end of BFA, they were struggling with that patch big time with balance because corruption and stuff, so they didn't really know how to tune it. But it was like, that mechanic just, no, sorry, you're dead. You're gone.
There's so many times, like, you see a boss and you just know, oh, this is going to be hell. This will be hell unless they completely neuter it.
How many people are going to die in Sennar? Like,
and then it's the sort of thing, they wouldn't need to neuter it if they had the res system of FF14.
Yeah.
Then the cool mechanic could be there and it could still be punishing, but you could get back up and learn from it.
Yeah. So we do have to discuss loot. But before you do that, might as well just fly down to the bottom of this dock to look at the
solutions.
Bottom of the gameplay solutions. We'll go back to the loot after. So this is my thought where I literally said this like an earlier thinking about it is, it's a piss easy simulacra of the raid experience. It 100% deserves to exist for people who want that experience, but it causes experience problems because of who goes in there.
Yeah.
So then we'll go back to loot, and that's like how to solve who goes in there. But I just thought, what do you do, right? You just make it pure baby mode. You just go, all right, well, one solution is get people to get good. They tried that in Warlords of Draenor. It failed catastrophically. They'll never do that again.
Silver proving
and
ground.
They've done a substantial amount of
Great
work.
filter.
They've done a substantial amount of work to make sure people who don't want to play content that challenges them have stuff to do, and that's great. That's it. Going for their audience.
Yep.
That was their choice. Fantastic.
Broad church.
Yep, wonderful. So if the gloves off don't work, put really big soft gloves on. So imagine LFR, but instead of just you being the players, imagine the NPCs who were there canonically fighting with you. Were there fighting with you? And you go, well, that's a better experience already. That's kind of cool. And now imagine the NPCs do damage. And you could be smart with this and have them do a flat amount of damage and just whatever, they'll do most of the fight and other people can add on whatever else, small amounts of damage. And then that would actually reflect how it goes more. Anyway, historically, you wonder why are we fighting when Jaina could wipe them all out in 1 second? Anyway, but I thought of this idea where
she's canonically worth 20 to 30 of us.
Exactly, yeah. So you have this idea of, imagine you've got a damage threshold. For this case, let's say it's 100.
Mm-hmm.
And if you do 100 damage per second, it'll kill the boss in 5 minutes. This group's doing 70 damage per second. So it's going to be like an 8 minute kill or 7 minute kill. I don't do math very quick in my head anymore. It's a problem I have computers. But then the NPCs just do that 30. So it goes down to 5 minutes. Everyone's pressing their damage away. There's like, yeah, it's fun. I'm killing the boss. I'm doing mechanics and whatever. But it dies at the same speed. And that means people aren't mauling over everyone doing no damage. So it'll be a fixed enough experience. There'll be no reason to scream, you're doing no damage. Ah!
But it does mean that whatever you do is pointless. Because if you don't show up, the computer will compensate.
Yeah. That's obviously a downside. But it's almost like that kind of the idea of being a simulacra. The idea of you're in the matrix of playing the video game. It doesn't really matter what you do, it'll all go out anyway. But if you just want to hit your button and do no damage, just as long as people don't learn to literally AFK, then that would be a problem. I think you might have to limit it so they won't fill it up to 100. They'll do like half max or something like that of this theoretical button. But the idea isn't the general agreement that LFR is meant to be the story mode version, so it should basically complete itself. If you're talking story mode as in the newfangled story mode, where video games on story mode are basically, if you touch a controller, if you breathe on the controller, you'll win. You pretty much. And you can also add that to...
For Blizzard.
Yeah, and for everyone else. Like you put any modern video game on story mode, it is, you don't have to try. You breathe and it's over.
The weird thing about LFR.
Yeah, so LFR should be more like that, theoretically, to match the experience that they want. Yeah, game journalist mode, exactly. So, and then NPCs could battle res as well. Like, imagine you die to a mechanic and you get an NPC call out or a whisper saying, don't die on me yet, hero. Up you get.
Yeah.
And maybe it's like not instant, maybe it's like 10 seconds, 30 seconds. So it feels like you did kind of make a mistake. But then I think you're going to have that experience of, oh, I feel like I'm actually part of this fight. It's good, etc. And it's also like a really shitty simulacrum of what it is to be playing raiding. But it's the experience is close enough in the broad strokes that it'll still be kind of fun. Ideally, I think. Why not take the story out of the raid and get rid of LFR? Story in raid is to put it lightly, cool.
Yeah.
It's just cool. You go raid a place, get story. I feel like there's like that's a solution, but I think you lose too much in that solution. It would be interesting. I'd love to peer into a timeline where they try that and see how it goes, but I don't think that would be the good move. And then there's
I think the main bit there is the battle res component.
Yeah, I think that what will give people you're dead. Go eat your dinner now. You don't want that to happen at all.
Yeah. Another side is loot.
Yeah, this is the weird part of this expansion.
Yeah, so group loot, like the place where people were asking for this kind of thing was fixed raid groups. Now, the reason why Blizzard chose to apply it to absolutely everywhere is because they don't want to be making multiple loot tables, as that presented quite a lot of annoyance during Legion.
Mm-hmm.
So you do, though, get weird problems. Apparently, somebody was able to loot both of these tier tokens.
Yeah, the rules that Blizzard said they would work by don't work. It's literally not working as intended.
What?
Yeah. You're not supposed to be able to, like, if you roll need on two things.
Yeah, but that's not a... Oh, yeah.
If you win a roll on an item, your other roll should be discarded. It's not here. That's literally broken. I think there's also a load of restrictions that they said would be on who can need, aren't there? I'm not super sure on that. I didn't look this up beforehand because I vaguely recall them saying, you can't need on something if you have an item in that slot, etc., etc. So in the same way Personal Loot had those like trading restrictions, they intended to have these like rolling restrictions, and I think most of those are missing, which results in people doing things like needing on gear that they technically don't need, and then selling it to people, selling it through give me 10k and I'll trade you.
That shouldn't happen.
Yes.
That's very, very bad.
Correct.
That's not what we wanted.
Yes, correct.
Who thought group loot for LFR was a good idea? Same guy got 3 pieces of loot from the same boss, 2 of them being the same tier piece, meanwhile my gloves are still blue.
Yeah.
Well, this is emotional context, but this is, that's not part of the maths. Shouldn't be part of the maths. But
it's part of the experience.
It is part, yeah, that's it.
And the maths and experience are both important separately.
That's why I brought up the Asmongold Sepulchre situation. Yep. Mm-hmm. Because, also, that experience shouldn't be happening. This is not how they said it would be implemented.
Yep.
Right? Like, they said that this would not be possible.
Mm-hmm. It might be an overlap.
Could there be something?
Tier, but
I'm just noticing because this is both in tier.
Yeah, it could be an oversight with tier, just.
Yeah.
Because it's an item, not a bit of gear. Maybe the rules don't work.
Maybe it's that.
But they should have had them.
In which case, holy shit, that was an obvious edge case.
That's an oversight, yeah.
Like, that is the one edge case you should find. Because it's not an edge case, it's tier gear.
it's the most important case, actually.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's another point. It's not fun to be able to need on daggers and polearms of Druid. You can roll daggers. Yeah, you can. Well, okay, I've not done LFR, but in our guild runs, I can roll on agility daggers, which I shouldn't be allowed to because they're not for me. I don't know if I can roll I don't think I can roll in strength polearms, but I can roll on agility polearms. Okay, I think. I'm pretty sure I can.
Interesting.
Has one dropped? I don't know, actually. I'll have to get back to you on that.
So, right. Solutions. I think this can be fixed.
2 hands, 2 gloves, yeah. Personal loot. Everyone clap. Fixed. Problem solved. Problem solved. It's all over. It's all over. It's all over. No, there's a variety of different ways you could kind of look at this, right? There's and some of these are other people's ideas. Some of these are just stuff I thought of. But there's personal loot, right? Personal loot in Raid Finder. There you go. It's fine every other time. Do whatever. But LFR's a different beast, different experience. In the same way, personal loot's still in other places that aren't raids. It should probably just have that, right? Should probably just. There's also another one which is smaller fixes. So you've got the auto unlock lower difficulty transmogs. Because one of the things is people will go into... I should probably move myself a little bit. Yeah. People often go into LFR for transmog, right? And then they need items. And they need on an item that they don't need because they want the transmog because they need the transmog. But then that's taking that away from someone else. And that's the thing where they're used to that because personally it used to be that way. Used to go in and get it and there you go, sorted. But if you don't. But if you're used to that, then you just go, well, you don't think about people. Other people aren't. They're not people. They're just names in a list that you get randomly grouped with. And this is going back very, very far into like World of Warcraft when the pre-made group finder and stuff, or not the pre-made group finder, the random group finder was added in Late Wrath. But that's like, people just go in and need. So if you could get the transmogs without having to touch LFR, then that would hit a couple different things, right? That would hit you don't have to go to LFR. So if you're not in LFR, then you're not one of those people being, you're taking too much time. How are you doing so little damage? You should be doing this much damage. I simmed your character in the army and you should be doing this much damage, etc. And that would kill like a little bit of that otherwise. So that should just go away through that. That would be a difficult one to implement, I think. Another one is that if you add FF14 style tokens instead of actual loot, then that would be an actual solution. That would fix the problem largely, because then you don't have like the whole, people need to roll different gear. Just be everyone rolls on everything they need and then get a lockout or something like that. That would more or less be it. But then that comes with, they're never going to do that because that obviously comes with flavor downsides, because you don't get a bit of loot, you get a token, you trade it. You could obviously work away, but it's not the fantasy that World of Warcraft is used to, so they won't do it that way. As enchanter, I'll always need everything for mats. Yeah, Esteban, disenchanting and enchanting is another part of the problem I forgot to mention. That's crazy. That shouldn't be the case. They should make LFR loot disenchantable or something. I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to get around that problem, honestly. That's an interesting one. I guess just turn off need rolls, right? You turn off need rolls if you don't need the item, I guess. Is that not what they're supposed to do anyway? They did this to retain subs. They do everything they do is to retain subs largely. What else? Yeah, so that's actually what I was saying. They actually get the trading role restrictions right, so people can't do bullshit. That would be an important part, right? Do make it work the way you said it was going to work, and then everyone will be like, sweet, it works, fine. Another one is that everyone gets loot for free. This is this would go against the retain subs part, but I think if everyone got just loot from LFR specifically, then it would be fine. Easy, problem sorted. Everyone gets loot. And I think this is the best one. This is one of the ones from the Reddit thread talking about this. And it's just tokens. Get tokens for finishing the wings. Don't drop loot in LFR. Obviously, maybe you'll drop bonus loot in LFR or something like that.
There needs to be something to make the bosses actually like. Yeah, that needs to be an exciting moment. Yeah, within the span of doing the run. Yeah, but then I think you could maybe get it like the tokens for finishing the wings give you cosmetic only versions or something, or super low item level versions that are the same thing. So you get like maybe the wearable loot there, but you get the appearance from finishing the wing, and then people would do that. They would get the transmogs and they wouldn't cut into the loot pool. They'd still be in LFR because Blizzard clearly want that, even though that's probably a bad thing. Because if you're there just for transmog and you're going to be toxic because people aren't going fast enough, maybe you shouldn't be there. But I think that's basically some of the solutions overall for loot. It should probably be there, honestly. But there's just a couple things that are like, just group loot maybe shouldn't. The easiest solution is kill group loot in LFR. Go personal loot. But then that kind of breaks the rules of the game a little bit. Yeah, well, I guess you could almost like just go group loot, except that it isn't ideal. Because the loot tables wouldn't be built for group loot. But then also realize it's LFR gear. In the grand scheme of things, it doesn't matter humongously. But then they maybe would say, well, that's loot for 30% of our players. Yeah, that's the thing. It is loot for 30% of the players. And also, it's about the experience. If people go into LFR and have a bad experience, it doesn't matter if the loot's good or not. Yeah. If they go in and go, that was my loot, I didn't get it. And that's the problem switching from personal loot to group loot. People are used to seeing a drop and going, oh, mine. Now people see a drop and go, oh, mine. What do you mean that bastard stole it from me? He took my gear. When in fact, that was my gear. Mine. I deserve it. I was here. And those are people who don't realize that basically the same thing was happening behind the scenes. Anyway. Because experiences matter substantially. Yeah, because it was behind the scenes. How your system makes players feel is more important to what your system actually does in 99% of the cases.
obviously what it literally does can affect feeling, but feeling's most important.
Yeah.
Because hyper reality is more important than reality when it comes to selling people products.